going to be showing you a hermit crab design that is extremely 3D. And I actually used a shell that I found on vacation that we took almost 2.5 years ago when she was just a little tiny baby. But we went to Mexico and I collected a couple shells, and this is one of them that I collected on that vacation. And then I sculpted all of the hermit crab bits coming out of this. This design is, like I said, super duper extreme, and it is just so over the top. I love it so much. I hope you guys love it as much as I do, of course. And don't forget to click subscribe, and don't forget to also hit the like button, comment, share, do everything you can. It really supports my work and I appreciate it more than you guys know. Every single comment and like I get is just, it's so heartwarming. So please, if you wouldn't mind, do all that for me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
So we're going to begin with an overlay of a sandy color acrylic. I actually have a couple different of these that I call my sandy colors. I love them so much. If you guys don't have any of that particular color, but you ever do an aquatic or a beach theme design, pick up a sandy colored acrylic that's like a glitter mix, because they are just fantastic. They're one of my favorites to ever use. So anywho, encapsulate that, and then we're going to be filing it into shape with our E-file to make sure it is nice and smooth and, you know, strong and apex and blah, 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 blah. Once all of that is done, we can begin working on our little hermit crab, which is the fun part if you are me at least. So we're going to be sculpting 4 of just the legs with white acrylic on a nail form backing. And this is just a very small base for these legs. This isn't like the full 3D leg shape. This is just a, you know, just a beginning stage. So we've got the 4 of those, and then we're going to be doing the 2 legs that have the claw on the end. So those are a little bit thicker, just as far as, you know, each section is a little bit thicker. And then of course they do have the claw on the end, and you're going to need 2 of those. So when you're making all of these little pieces, I like, as you can see, I'm working really close together. I'm not like doing each one on a different nail form backing. And if you work very close together like this, then you can see, you know, spacing and, or not spacing, size comparison from one piece to the next piece. And hopefully when you can see, you know, what size everything is, you're going to have a better chance of getting it all to be proportional without having to make like a template. Of course, if you want to make a template, that's obviously just fine too. Then make a kind of like an almost soft square for the shape for your crab's head. So now we're going to be thickening up and rounding out the shapes of each leg. So flip them over so that the side that was flat against the nail form backing is up to start. So that side, as you can see, actually, I don't know how well it is, how easy it is you can see this. It's very shiny because it picks up the sheen from the nail form backing. It gives it that shininess, but it's very, very flat. It is, you know, paper flat. It's, you know, yeah, I could keep giving you different descriptions of flat things, but you get my point. And the reason you start on that side is because when you round up that side, it gives you an idea of how much acrylic you have to add to the other side, and you may or may not need to add anything to the side that was up that you already were sculpting on. So you may or may not need to do anything else. This may be done, but once you have all of those crab legs all rounded out, then we can begin to add color to them. So grab your yellow, orange, kind of like an orangey reddish color, and black acrylic. Grab just basically whatever colors you want to be on your crab. So there's my oranger color. Absolutely love that color. It's such a like intense scarlet-y color. We're going to be doing that. And when I'm using these acrylics, they are incredibly thin. They are almost paint consistency. But one benefit of using acrylic at this particular point instead of using paint instead is that you are building up more texture to your crab. So when you're building up this more texture, pay attention to how your acrylic is laying. You don't want to just look at the color. Also look at, you know, if it's thin in the right places, if it's thick in the right places, and you can use this chance to give even more shape to your crab legs. So you got the orange, got the red, got the yellow, and do this to all of your crab legs. So it'll be all 4 of the legs, and then we're going to repeat the steps to do the claws. And when you're doing the claws, make them, as much as they were a little bit taller, they're also going to need to be a little bit wider in the shape. So this one, you may need to add some more color or more acrylic to thicken up the other side, so that this crab claw looks looks appropriate from all sides, like it's not really super skinny. But then after you have that done and you're happy with the shape of it, then you're going to need to do the same coloring on the crab claw as you did on the legs. The one thing that is different about the coloring on the crab claw is that the claw itself has a little bit different patterning on it. And when you're looking at adding the color to your crab, there are so many different species of little hermit crabs that you could really have so much fun with it. When I was doing some research for this, I saw some really really pretty ones that were kind of like a blue and purple combination with then some like brownish undertones. I loved that one and I couldn't decide. I honestly was going back and forth for so long. And then I decided to go with what I consider to be the more obvious choice and go with the red tones. But really, you can have a lot of fun with this. After your claws are done, and then you can move on to the head. And we're going to be thickening up the head so that it is far thicker on one end than it is on the other. So when you're applying your acrylic, you're going to kind of pull it down almost flat on one side and then really give it the height on the other side. And in just a second, you'll get to see what I mean. So there's another bead, and we are going to do this to both sides of what, we have of our head shape so far. So when you're patting it out, you want it to, see there, press it down on the one side so that it's got a lot more thickness on the other. Then flip that over once it's cured and glue 2 pieces of wire onto what is now the flat side. So glue those 2 pieces of wire in towards the thick end of your shape. So you want the thick side to be where the wire is coming out, because the thick side is what's going to be coming out of the shell, and that's where you want these little feelers to be coming out of. And then after you have all of that done, you're going to need to smooth out and round out the top of this piece as well. And then we're going to be adding some color to the head with the exact same colors that we've been using already. Surprise, surprise. So if your right shape wasn't perfectly smooth, another benefit of using acrylic to add the color versus a paint is that the acrylic will fill in any little uneven texture or anything like that, and you can smooth it out in this particular step. If you're just using paint would enhance all of those color issues. So once you have the color on your little crab shell or crab head, you can glue it inside the shell. So just hold it in there until it's glued. Pay attention to the angle that it's being glued at so that it's not going to look like he's trying to hide still, but that he is coming out. And then glue the shell to the nail. When you're using your nail glue, there's not much to glue the shell to, so it will take a little bit of effort and some patience to get the shell to stay put. If you want to use something like a clear gel instead that would cure pretty rapidly, you could definitely do that. And then we're going to be securing everything together with just a bit of acrylic because all of that stuff that was glued together is pretty flimsy. Now we're going to take and we're going to be gluing all of our legs in place. So take your legs and you're going to glue them kind of how you think the crab would be sitting. Again, look at reference photos to get posing ideas, but glue one leg to the left and then one to the right and keep going back and forth so that you kind of space them evenly. And I just think it's easier to go back and forth with something like this instead of trying to do all one side and then all the other side, but it is up to you, whatever you prefer. After the legs are all glued down, then you can glue the 2 claws in. I glued the claws so they were kind of sitting off the edge of the nail, and the legs don't have to be posed exactly the same on each side. You can kind of adjust them a little bit so that they aren't perfectly symmetrical. They can have some of their own posing, if you will. And then with more clear acrylic, we're going to be securing all of these pieces together because those legs are just glued in at the shell. I didn't put any glue at the tip of the toe, so you might need to add a little bit either of glue, gel, acrylic to keep everything together. Now we're going to sculpt 2 small rectangles on a nail form backing, and this is for the base of the eyes. A hermit crab's eyes sit up away from their head just a little bit, so they have this little like extension on their eye. So those are what those are for, and then glue those down right above those pieces of wire once you have them sculpted. And then you probably need to add a little bit more acrylic to round up their shape. And the other thing you're doing at this particular stage is you're making sure that those 2 new pieces are fully attached to the head. And then after you're done getting those 2 pieces all, sculpted out, you're going to grab some black acrylic and you're going to set that bead down on the top of this little eyeball pillar and you're going to press it down so it's nice and flat and an oval shape. Do that for both sides. And I think eyeball pillar is the best phrase for what these are. I was trying to think of what to call them, but I think that works. So after you have that done, this is up to you. Again, so many different varieties of hermit crab out there. I'm going to give mine a little bit more texture with some white polka dots on the top of each leg and on the top of the body, just a little bit. So when you're doing these white polka dots, I'm using white acrylic paint and just tapping them in place. I absolutely love these little white polka dots. I think they bring the whole crab to life. And a lot of them have a bumpy texture to the outside of their shells. And so it kind of gives them that almost bumpy appearance. And then after you have that done, then you add a little white highlight to the eyes. And now we get to bend those feelers into place. After you've got them bent, I would cut off the extra if there is any, and then we get to paint them. So I grabbed 2 colors of gel polish that are complementary to my crab color, a very bright orange and a pastel yellow, and I'm going to be painting my little feelers with that. Cure between colors. So after you apply the first color, cure it, and then apply the second color, which for me is that pastel yellow. And once that's done, then I'm going to just gel top coat those little feelers, and that is it for the feelers. But the last thing you need to do is you will need to apply a 3D glaze over your crab. So what a 3D glaze is it's essentially a regular top coat that is marketed as a 3D glaze, and it gives it a very satiny, kind of shiny effect without filling in any of the 3D details, which is a great product. But you could just grab a regular cheap regular lacquer top coat and it would do the same job. But that is it. I love this little design. This hermit crab is adorable. I had hermit crabs as pets when I was a youngin', and so I've always really liked them. So I hope you guys love this design as much as I do, and I will see you next time. Bye.